Welcome to the Beers on Heads podcast.
Hey, Pete, I found the guy.
You found a guy?
Matt Boston.
What guy? What guy are you talking about? Explain it.
So a year ago, pretty much to the day, we made a bracket challenge on ESPN, and we invited everyone, all of our followers, and the prize was Pete's terrific painting of Sam Pittman. I think you painted that when you were 3 years old.
No.
Oh,
I painted that as a. I had the brain of a 3-year-old, which is quite miraculous, and the steady hand of Michelangelo. That's honestly how I would frame that painting.
Yeah.
The brain,
anyway,
of the steady hand of Michelangelo.
Anyway, so we had a winner, obviously, as most contests do.
Fuck.
And this guy never got his painting ever. And going back and looking at this, I even tweeted at you on May 21st. That would be a month and a half after March Madness.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever send at Matt Boston 85 his painting for winning the March Madness pool? And you replied, and I quote, delete.
I think he DM'd me, and I remember I said, yeah, I got you. And then I, deleted all my DMs. And so now I can't find it. But you have his name, and I'm very willing to send it to him. So if he hops into my DMs and sends me his address.
That's not how, no. You go into his DMs. That's not how
at this point, it's all messed up.
And I actually went to his profile to make sure he was still following me, because if he hadn't followed me in the past year, I wasn't going to send it to him. But he is still following.
Yeah, well, he might be not even on Twitter anymore. That's a whole different discussion.
Boston's last tweet is a retweet on January 17th, so there could be truth to that.
JJ, this is the best your connection to internet has looked ever on this show, I think.
That's Dallas, baby.
It might be Dallas. It might be since it's been a year since we recorded. Technology's evolved.
5G, baby, 5G.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing. And we're all getting cancer as well. So, speaking of brackets, that's why we decided to hop on, is we kind of just have a very sporadic, way of doing things. If you followed the show ever, you know that. It's been months since we've been on, and obviously we're rusty. But I think the reason that we're on is because JJ was back on his bracket BS, which, if you don't know this, it's very surprising the knowledge that Jacob Johnson Jr. has about college basketball. And obviously it's partly due to his degenerate behavior as a gambler, but partly just because he's a fan of the game. So we thought, with the bracket coming out Sunday night, maybe get something on record on Monday. But before we get to that, I want to point out that this might be the first episode that Sneed is not drinking alcohol. William?
Yeah, I'm still have a sinus infection from Vegas. I'm not particularly doing well. 2 days ago, I started to not be able to taste or smell, so who knows? Maybe it's COVID. But this episode
could be chlamydia.
It could be that too. Regardless, this episode of Beers on Heads is brought to you by Fisherman's Friend, best cough drops on the market.
That's definitely the clap.
Fisherman's Friend.
We're actually not sponsored by Fisherman Friends, but anybody out there who's looking to sponsor somebody, that was a good plug. So,
thank you.
Shout us out,
dude. I thought maybe you were just done drinking, and I was gonna applaud you, but it feels like this is just a couple-day break. But regardless, I think it's healthy to always take a couple days off, and I'm proud of you.
I appreciate it.
JJ, I think we should go ahead and get started with the bracket. And then
I think it's very important that we talk about why we took the hiatus. Paul Franzoni has dropped the charges against Pete, so we are in the clear to go ahead and start recording again. And with that being said, boys, take it away.
It was a long legal process, but I'm glad that truth finally came out in the end and Pete's name got cleared.
Thank you. My lawyer advised me not to say anything, but I'm going to go ahead and make a statement anyway. I like Paul. Paul's a good guy, and I understand the circumstances of why he came after me. It was one of those things where you look yourself in the mirror and say, is this who I really want to be for the rest of my life? I was willing to settle. In the end, we had a nice talk, as in our lawyers talked, and everything is that's all I'm going to say about that.
It's good to see men be men.
We're going to talk about Arkansas basketball when we get to them in the bracket, but obviously there's a lot to dissect there. But let's go just ahead and start. I hope I'm in the right spot, JJ. JJ's got like extensive notes. We're going to chime in whenever we feel like it's necessary. But we're just going to start from the top of the bracket. Gonzaga, Georgia State.
Yeah, so obviously, starting off with the game that you can't have too many thoughts about. I saw some people say, "Oh, Georgia State upset." That's obviously not going to happen. Actually, and that was probably the one game that I didn't do much research on, just because I saw enough Georgia State to know that they're just severely underperformed all year. Barely eked out conference tournament championship. When the preseason, I think they were voted number 1 or 2 in their conference. Underperformed. Offense sputtered. They do play a little on-ball defense, a little pressure, which could theoretically slow down. And that's been one, like Gonzaga's one kind of bugaboo has been in-your-face defense. So that does pose a threat, but more so in the round 2 game, their potential round 2 opponent, which we could just jump straight into, would be the winner of Memphis and Boise.
Before you get into that, I just want to say that a lot of people are out there saying that Gonzaga is the weakest 1 seed they've seen in a long time. I disagree, and I'll get to when you mention the next 1 seed that I think is worse than Gonzaga. I'll jump in on that.
Okay, so they will play the winner, obviously, of Memphis and Boise. Basically, so with this certain game, they both present the same challenge to Gonzaga, and that being a very physical, defensive-minded team that's going to be athletic and on-ball pressuring. Probably the best matchup of the potential second-round tournament would be Jalen Duren against Chet Holmgren. Duren, a 7-foot freshman for Memphis, and Chet's also 7-foot freshman for Gonzaga. Both will be probably top 10 picks in the draft. Duren, definitely a more physical player than Chet, but Chet's going to be able to bring him out into the perimeter. So it'll be interesting to see how Duren kind of adapts to that. I don't think that Gonzaga is going to be able to handle the physicality of potentially Memphis. Between Duren down low and in a guard-oriented backcourt, you have Lester Quiones, you have Alex Lomax, both seniors. You have there's one other guy down low, Quiones, Lomax, and I think that's it as far as backcourt senior laden. So you got your senior guards and a phenom down low. I think that's enough to battle Gonzaga. And if for whatever reason I personally think Memphis pulls it out against Boise. If Boise were to get past Memphis, it's because they actually start 4 seniors. One of which is Aycock. He's a 6'9" wing player, plays like a guard, incredibly long, lanky, but has a nice shot. The one guy that is not a senior that starts for him, his name's Tyson Degenhart. You watch him play and you think a young Dougie McBuckets out of Creighton. 6'8", 6'7" white guy, long hair, can shoot the piss out of the ball. 1 through 5, very long, lanky, and athletic. But again, just like Memphis, will play in the opponent's back pocket. So I don't personally think that go ahead.
No, I thought you might have been moving on to UConn, New Mexico State. I was going to ask if UConn is as legit as some analysts seem to. It seems like there's kind of a split in the expert world of whether UConn is legit or not. I'm on the fence as well.
Before JJ hops into that, coming live here from Highmark Stadium in Buffalo, I've been here since yesterday. I can tell you that Chris Jans was spotted at the local Dave & Buster's with Desiree Reed-Francois, the Missouri AD. So just keep that in mind while you're filling out your brackets.
Thank you for that insider information, William. I really do appreciate that.
Heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, so with UConn and New Mexico State, I was quick to lean UConn here, but the more I dug into the numbers, it's closer than I think. So UConn, deceptively, not a large team at all. Their largest player is Sonogo. He's 6'9", about 240. He plays bigger than that, even bigger than 6'9". I would say he plays more like he's 6'11". He is a big guy as far as how he plays, but not necessarily stature-wise. Another team with senior guards, Cole and Gaffney. Gaffney comes off the bench. Both seniors in March. Obviously, it's where you want to target your kind of dark horses as senior-laden teams, especially in the backcourt. The big thing, and it's such a trendy little nugget for gamblers and novices alike, is the KenPom ratings for basically adjusted offense and adjusted defense. There's that stat you always hear, like no team's ever won it or made a Final Four won it being outside top 30 in adjusted offense and outside top 50 in defense. UConn's top 35 in both, so they qualify mostly for that. In the past month, they've only allowed 70 points one time. So definitely a defensive grinding team. In this this region of the bracket, we see that a lot between the Memphis game, between this game, because New Mexico State also another defensive grinding team. Offensively, you could say they're a one-man show in Teddy Allen, but they do have nice complementary pieces in Rice and McCants. McCants puts up buckets when he wants to. Now, they did lose two big pieces down low in Tillman and Avery. They lost them about halfway through the year, and you saw it on the defensive end. They kind of lost some oomph down low. They do still have length, though. They have three guys taller than 6'8", so three guys that play over 20 minutes for them are going to be taller than anyone pretty much on the court for UConn. That did jump out on the page to me, so they have the size and they do have some experience. Their non-con was fairly weak. They didn't really play any big men like Sonogo. And the one thing that I have seen is people be scared off on their Chicago State loss that came about a month ago. I think that's a little dramatic. Chicago State they weren't exactly the 0-30 team that we saw the past 5 years. They did take a little step up. Still a bad loss nonetheless, but it's not as bad as it seems. When push comes to shove, I do think it's just a straight bad matchup for New Mexico State. I think UConn defensively is going to give them enough because you really only have to focus on McCants and on Teddy Allen on the offensive end. And I think that Cole and Gaffney will be able to provide that in the front court, in the back court to limit them.
I'm always insanely just blown away by how much you know about these teams. Anyway, this is the big matchup, Arkansas, Vermont, and I feel like there's a lot to dissect here because we have not recorded in a very long time. JJ has since opted out of the season. What game did you opt out?
So that was actually, people think it was the Hofstra game. It actually wasn't. It was the Elon game in the first half. If everyone, we were in a really tough stretch and came out flat against Elon. I think we were down by like 10, 11 points with about 5 minutes to go in that half. I tweeted that, and we went on, I think, a 22-1 run. And ever since then, we really haven't looked back, minus a little shaky start in SEC play, which reaffirmed my opting out for a little bit. And then
after those first three SEC games, I was like, that's not a bad opt-out, but yeah, a lot of people treat that as a shtick. I treat it as law. Like, you opted out, man. Like, that's just the way it goes. And you were being serious when you opted out as well.
I was dead serious when I opted out.
I think you discredited what Eric Musselman can do with any given roster. He'll figure it out with no matter what roster you give him.
And I did jump into space during the rough SEC stretch, and I did say something to the effect of, we did this last year too, and like halftime of the Auburn game last year, we turned it around. Something happened in that locker room, and we just like took control the rest of the year. So I think in the back of my head, I always thought it was a possibility, even when I was strongly opted out. Now the opt out's a little weaker than it was in the past. It's a tough. If it's a bit, it's a tough bit to keep up. I'll say that it's gotten really difficult for me to remain opted out. But I do have a reservation for a championship night at Painting with a Twist. If we win the championship, I will be there painting and wine sipping.
I will add on to that too. Though while I was at the Dave & Buster's earlier today, I did run into Eric Messelman, and he did inform me of how much the team used JJ's opting out as motivation to go on the run that they did. So big claps for JJ. I think everybody should give him props and thanks and send him like $20 or something. I don't know.
That would be great.
Once again, yeah. Thank you for that insider information, Mr. Seed and JJ. I hate that everything you do gets praised somehow, because I think it was kind of a shitty thing to do to opt out that early this season. But I mean, dude, this team is they're night and day different. It all starts with J.D. Note actually taking over the point guard role. I think that was what really solidified Arkansas as an actual contender, because when we were trying out Devo at the point, we were trying out Chris Likes as a true point guard. Obviously, that just was not the answer. I think there was a point in time where Jalen Williams turned it on and figured out that he has to be the guy. And I think all this kind of happened at the same time. And then, of course, when J.D. Note was finding himself as a facilitator, and I mean he's obviously going to be a go get your points first, but just limiting the turnovers was absolutely gigantic, the turnaround. But we're at tournament time. It's obviously too late to go back and look at every single game. I want to know about the matchup with Vermont, which, in my opinion, that's always a bad draw, no matter how you look at the matchup, as a team that can knock down shots from outside the arc, and then obviously a team that has experience, they're older. It's not a great draw.
So I would say individually, yeah, the Note and Jalen stepping up were huge. I think the biggest thing was the defensive buy-in as a team. At one point during our non-con stretch, I think we were Ken Palm. I want to say close to 200th in three-point defense. I think we finished the year. I have to look back and see, but I think we were top 50. Ending up top 50 in the nation defending three. So quite the leap up, and really the root of a lot of wins, as we've seen. I mean, specifically these low-scoring games that we've been in, like in the Tennessee game, for instance, in Bud Walton, that three-point defense was suffocating. So you see a lot of buying in on the defensive end around the perimeter, and I think that's been as far as team aspects, probably the biggest turnaround that we've seen. But yeah, with our tournament game against Vermont, so basically my blurb here was, we know what we are. Guard led, balanced team. We struggle to shoot the ball, to put it lightly. We one of the more streaky Razorback teams we've had in a while. We get our offense from our defense more often than not, whether it be on dead ball offensive charges or just straight turnover steals that lead to rim finishes. 56th in defensive turnover percentage, so that kind of gives you an insight as to how often we do get it back. And like I said earlier, turnaround this year has been learning to defend and limit the three ball, top 60 in both percentage and frequency, and limiting the three ball. Vermont does shoot it, and they shoot it well. They shoot the ball from deep, 54th in the nation as far as frequency, and third in effective field goal percentage in the entire nation. So when they take shots, they hit them. They did play a weak non-con. They lost to Providence by 10. Now, it's a little misleading. They, out of the gate, I believe they were down in the first 10 minutes, they were down 17. So in the final 30, they did outplay Providence by 7 points. Their key cog is Ben Shungu. Shungu?
Country of origin.
I actually think he's American.
Let's not get in trouble again. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't need another lawsuit on our hands. So Shungu routinely scores over 25% of their points game in, game out. So he's obviously the key cog. He drives the offense. The X factor is Ryan Davis. He came back from injury 6 games ago. He did miss about 8-9 games, I believe. And after coming back from injury, their average margin of victory, which they have won every game since he came back, the average margin has been 28 points.
They scored.
They've
scored over 80 and 90 a bunch of times.
They score the ball. They have a 6'8" center that has shot 100 threes on the year. So he will step out and shoot them. That's going to be drawing Jalen out. He's not going to be getting much charges because this guy's going to be pulling them out from the paint. So he's going to take away a little bit of our defensive identity.
I feel like that's okay for Jalen Williams, though. He's athletic enough to get out there on a big guy shooting a three. That's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, defensive ability for sure. What it will take away from is kind of our scheme. And like I said, kind of our identity with drawing those charges down low.
So
now, I do
some
think
could say that they're going to try to take us out of our game plan without consent. Just wanted to throw that in.
There have been rumblings that Vermont is pro-rape, which we stand against, obviously, as a podcast and as a fan base and as a program. I don't have anything to follow up with that. After looking at the numbers, I did actually feel better. Just looking at who they played and how they played them. The Ryan Davis coming back and how he's been playing since coming back worries me a little bit. But I think that it's going to be a game of outscoring, kind of like Colgate last year. I think Vermont can put up more points because I think they have more weapons and they have more variance on how they get the points. You have a team that, like I said, they rank 54th in 3-point rate, but also their field goal percentage is 3rd in the nation. So obviously they go down low too. So that is kind of worrying.
We talked about it last year, but I hate playing these like 13 seeds. It's like teams that could. It's all if they're on fire, there's nothing you can do. And it's March. I mean, that's just how it goes. But I think our athleticism matches up in a way that is almost too big of a hill for them to climb in terms of just on paper. But like I said, I hate matching up with teams that can shoot the ball, especially from beyond the arc.
Are we the best defense they've seen all year, you think?
You could argue Providence.
I'd say we're the most athletic team they've seen by a long shot.
All right, but real quick, that could be true. Come on.
I think that Arkansas's athleticism matches up. I mean, one of the best in the SEC. I can't imagine they played anybody more athletic than Arkansas.
But yeah, I mean, so there are 2 big non-con games with Providence and Maryland, and we would fucking blow the water with Maryland.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What'd they do against Maryland?
They lost by 11.
It makes you feel good, but like I mentioned again, it's just a wild card.
Now let me go into that game real quick. Actually, so that game went a little differently. They were up early on Maryland. They're up by 4 at half. Then second half, Maryland outscored them by 17.
I really like that the SEC was competitive this year. I mean, it's been getting better year in and year out, but the fact that Arkansas has had to face some tough games, especially down the stretch, win close games. You know, a lot of times they lose close games. So for them to win some close games this year, it's got to make you feel better. They know how to play. They know how to get into a fight and come out on top. So they're scrappy enough to win. They're taking on the identity of their head coach. But that's enough about Arkansas for now. If you want to circle back at the end, if you have time, we can do that. But I think it's time to move on, don't you think, JJ?
Yeah, we may do a little two pod week. We may do an Arkansas centric pod maybe Wednesday.
Okay, all right. So Alabama, Rutgers, or Indiana? I think it's obviously going to be Indiana. We don't have to really get into that. I'm pretty confident.
Wait, is there Notre Dame? I thought it was Notre Dame.
Rutgers, Notre Dame. Sorry, I thought it was IND. Sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I like Rutgers. But
I've been big on Rutgers just because of our guy John Rothstein.
You go ahead and get into that, but let's speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I kind of said very bland game, no matter who wins the play-in. Rutgers has the weirdest resume in the country by far. Wins at Indiana, at Wisconsin, home against Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. I mean, so they've beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that 7 or 8 tournament teams this year? But they have losses at Northwestern, against DePaul, Lafayette, not Louisiana Lafayette, which is a Northeastern team, and UMass, which UMass, if you don't know, pretty bad at basketball. They live and die with Ron Harper Jr. and Geo Baker. Incredibly streaky team. Obviously, if you can have games like those, the dichotomy of those two wins and losses.
Dichotomy? Hey, continue. That's awesome. Go ahead.
Capable of beating Bama in a neutral court, but I wouldn't count on it. Plays very good defense most of the time. 43rd in the country and and they were 4th in the Big Ten in adjusted defense. Not many thoughts on Notre Dame. They put up points, but they only play 7 guys, like total, all year. They played 7 guys. 5 juniors, an Ivy League transfer in Paul Atkinson, which is with 1 senior, and then the freshman in Wesley, who ironically is their go-to guy, the freshman. Inverse of Rutgers. They'll score points with about anyone defensively, can lapse often. Surrendered 74 points in every game in the last 30 days, which is 8 games. They've given up at least 74 points. So if you get Notre Dame, you're going to get into a track meet, which I'll take Alabama with those odds.
Before we transition over to Alabama, I just want to point out too. I feel like we always see a team come out of the play-in games that makes a run in the tournament, and I very much think that Rutgers could be that team this year. I don't love their matchup against Alabama, but I do like them as a sleeper team to come out of the play-in games, out of the first 4.
I'm going to take Notre Dame in that game, actually. I think Notre Dame's going to be able to outscore Rutgers.
I think Indiana is exponentially better than both of those teams.
I do agree with that.
So Alabama, can they make – I mean, you said they're going to win. They feel like a team that if everything goes right, they could absolutely make a run. I don't quite know what went on in the SEC. I mean, they beat Baylor, they beat Gonzaga. I mean, so if they get in the right situation, like they've shown that they can go on and beat the toughest teams in the nation.
Style-wise, it doesn't, but storyline-wise, kind of reminds me of UCLA from last year. UCLA came in last year. A lot of people were projecting them to be the best or second best team in the Pac-12. They fell on their face, snuck into a play-in game. Ironically, Alabama will be playing someone out of the play-in game. But underperformed all year and then turned it on with the pieces that everyone knew they had come March. Alabama.
How the hell did they get a 6 seed?
That's a good question. I mean, they do have it's the good wins, like you said. They're winning against Gonzaga, super impressive. So. Winning against Baylor, super impressive. That Baylor team, we'll talk about them in a little bit, but they were full strength. Then they weren't. I mean, Adam Flagler was healthy. Chachua was healthy. They were full strength in that game. So it's not like they were playing the same Baylor team that we see today.
Hey, I've been hot on my bets lately, even though you've been talking some ish online, JJ. But
I said I liked them.
Good. No, you didn't. You said wrong. But before that,
I jumped over myself and said I actually like these, and they went 3-1.
Yeah, I know. I've been like 3-1, 3-1, 3-1. So I've been feeling pretty good. I've been riding Davidson, and I've been riding Michigan State because Michigan State's honestly, like anytime it gets to March, they're always not where they should be, and then they just bam turn it on. And the Lions are always favoring Michigan State. So I mean, you get them plus 6.5 in a tournament game, like take them obviously. But I've been riding Davidson too. So this Michigan State Davidson game, like I'm not going to touch it. Like I have no idea who's going to come out on top because I guess it just really depends on what Michigan State team you get, and it depends on if Davidson is playing, out of their minds like they're capable of doing. So I would stay away from this game in terms of placing any bets on it, but I want to know what your thoughts are, JJ.
Are we just skipping over Texas Tech, Montana State, I guess?
Well, since I already had that intro, we'll go back. But, yeah, talk about Davidson.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the Michigan State-Davidson game is sneaky, probably my most intriguing game matchup-wise. I can't figure out Sparty. They look bad down the stretch. Lost to Penn State, double-digit losses to Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, and Purdue. All good teams, but if you're going to be a threat in March, you got to at least play those games close, and they really didn't do any of that. They did beat Maryland twice and Wisconsin to end the year, sandwiched in between those losses, so there was signs that they could be something. Maryland isn't much of anything. But Wisconsin, pretty significant win there. It does.
Davidson. It feels like Davidson feels like a team that could make a run. I just don't like their matchup. They feel like
matchup.
You know what I'm saying?
It's an interesting matchup because so Michigan State shares the ball very well. They're 15th in assist rate. They shoot the three. Then this is probably one of the more surprising things that I stumbled upon today. They shoot the three at an elite rate. They're 18th in the nation at shooting the three, but they're 281st in frequency shot. So they shoot the ball well, but they never shoot the fucking three. What makes that intriguing is that Davidson is 333rd at limiting three-point shots. So you can find open looks against Davidson. If you're a good shooting team, you can take advantage of that. Can Michigan State do that? They have the metrics to do that. Obviously, they're 18th in the country at shooting it when they shoot it. If you have a team like Davidson that's going to give it up, then they're going to take it. I would hope. That's the intriguing part to me. Will they take those shots? The reason I think they could maybe not do that is I think maybe Izzo could be a little too hard-headed to utilize their size. Michigan State has five guys over 6'9". Marble, Brown, Bingham, Hall, and Hauser. All play lots of minutes, all average, or all are at least 6'8". A team that can stretch them out and bring them out is going to have success. So will Izzo be open to maybe playing just one of those guys or two of those guys at a time instead of putting three of those guys in like he's done a lot of the time down the stretch this year? It's tough to say, and that's why it's going to be so intriguing to me. Because you have these three, you're playing three big guys at a time, and you have a team in Davidson, while they do give up the three at a time, they shoot it and take the three at a time. So you have a team that's 8th in percentage and 86th in rate. So they're going to take those shots, and they're going to make them. You're going to have to put in sets of 2 or 3 guys that can guard the perimeter, at least 2 or 3 guys that can guard the perimeter. They also aren't as fast as you'd think. So while you want to have those guards in there that can guard the perimeter, it's not a necessity to have guys to run up and down the court. They're 304th in tempo, Davidson is. So it's not like the Steph Curry offense that you think about. Their team, they have long possessions on offense. They force long possessions on defense. It's not going to be this run and gun game. They don't have much size, but they do have one guy, Luka Brockovich. He's the name to watch in this game. He's going to have the ability to pull a guy like Bingham out to the perimeter, which Bingham hasn't done really all year. You face guys like Zach Edey in the Big Ten. You don't face a whole lot of stretch fives, stretch fours. Brockovich shoots 40% from deep and 64% inside. That is second in the nation, 64% inside the perimeter. He does not miss. What I think happens here is that Davidson allows too many open looks to a team that metrically is one of the best shooting teams in the nation. Davidson does have the firepower to negate the size disadvantage, but 3 juniors and a senior and a sophomore to start. They do have some experience. Foster Lawyer for Davidson. Shoots the ball at Jimmer levels. He reminds me of Jimmer watching him play. 45% from three-point range, so they got the guys to shoot the ball. It's going to be a close game. It's too much, I feel like, size for Michigan State to lose this game. I think if the shots aren't falling for Davidson, they're not going to get the rebounds at a neutral site. You never know how jump shooters are going to react, but I would always lean toward misses than makes. Whichever team wins is going to give Duke a game, but I do lean Michigan State there when push comes to shove.
Okay, circle back to Texas Tech.
So the Texas Tech game, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek, not a whole lot of thoughts there. Texas Tech deep and gritty, sneaky good offense, best defense metrically in the nation. They could have been aided, in my opinion, by the Big 12 offenses. Top to bottom, the Big 12 has some pretty shitty offenses. Texas Tech did handle Eastern Washington, which is a fellow Big Sky member and one of the better teams in the conference, by 30 in December. So I do have a track record of facing the conference and beating the shit out of the conference. Montana State pretty balanced, shoot the ball at an elite clip. They are 32nd in adjusted field goal percentage. Even so, they score from the line the most. They're 16th in the nation at shooting the free throws. Texas Tech 232nd in limiting free throws. So Montana State can get to the line. They can make it maybe, a 5-10 point game down the stretch. But I think Texas Tech is going to be able to guard without fouling, so I don't think it's going to come into play a lot.
Once again, your brain is just a freaking – it should be studied by science because you're the dumbest dude sometimes, or this is like next level analysis. Which it's our treat, man. I'm glad you're doing your thing.
Duke's
I guess
pretty much a lock.
So I was gonna say, listen, yes, Duke is a lock. I'm looking at my book, the odds to win the national championship. You got Duke plus 1,600. I'd sprinkle a little bit on that. I don't care what you say in terms of matchup. You have like a roster like Duke has loaded with 5 stars, and then you have the storyline of Coach K's last year. I mean, to sprinkle just a little bit on plus 1,600, I mean, it's almost like you can see it already. You can see the confetti coming down, and Coach K's there at the end. They've lost some tough games, but it's kind of because I feel like they've had that target on their back of making everything about it being Coach K's last year. I can't say dude's name. Bocello? How far? Valancino.
No, Bocello?
No, I ruined it for you. I said it so bad.
Now
I said it so bad that you can't. Banchero. He reminds me a lot of Anthony Davis. Not the same size, not the same overpowering, but just like his physical ability can change it. I mean, he's a specimen compared to everybody else that's on the floor with him. That's what I mean. I don't mean
I was gonna say he reminds me of Jabari Parker more than anyone.
Yeah, no, that's not what I mean. I meant just like in terms of the eye test. Like this dude is 10 times more athletic than anybody else that touches the floor with him. He's a
treat to watch, and I don't hate that futures bet. Especially, I mean, if you look at the bracket. You put pretty much any of these teams toe-to-toe with Duke, and I think Duke has the ability to beat anyone. I don't think they're going to end up playing Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga gets beat before the Elite Eight. But you go down the list. I mean, Texas Tech, that'd be a really good game. I'm going to be really interested to watch that. But I think Duke can outscore Texas Tech. Michigan State and Davidson, they'll put up a decent fight against Duke, but I think Duke, again, can outscore both those teams. I think it's not necessarily a matter of outscoring Davidson. I think they have the guards to limit Davidson's scoring.
Sorry, we'll continue on the bracket. Just a couple of futures that I like as well. Wisconsin plus 6,900. Like that's a pretty insane odds, and I think Wisconsin's good enough to win the whole thing. Arkansas fans are going to like that. Arkansas plus 5,400. I mean, if you want to put $10 on, you win $540, and you don't lose much. So those are two ones I really like. And another one is Illinois plus 4,900.
Love that one.
So there's a lot of good value. I think it's always fun if you got a sports book, pick a team or a couple and just sprinkle a little money on there because it's going to be a celebration if they come through. Duke's is really intriguing though, plus 1,600. And I feel like they got a really good shot at it. So where are we at in the bracket, JJ? Do you know, or do you want me to keep on following my?
As we move into the East, I wanted to throw JJ a curveball. Texas and Virginia Tech. I want to start with that one. That's my most picked 11 versus 6 upset, and just tell me if I'm wrong or stupid on this one.
I agree. Like in my heart, I agree with you. But I'll go down to my little blurb here. And this is my first sentence is this. I said, I'm nearly to the point of overthinking this, Justin, because it's too obvious to take Virginia Tech here. The entire nation.
Well, there's always one that's obvious, and it always works out, though. To make you feel better.
I hate public dogs. I love being the contrarian so much. And this has happened already today where I have 3-4 upsets that I love and I see too much of it on Twitter. And then I say, these fucking idiots don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to take them.
Yeah, but it's March, and then there is something like that happens every tournament, that there is an obvious upset, and it does happen.
The public dog just scares the fuck out of me.
I know it does, but this is a different whole scenario than just your normal public dog. This isn't NFL. We're talking about the NCAA tournament, and it's kind of science that there's going to be a public dog that everyone picks, and then it's going to be right. Am I stupid for saying that?
You know what sucks though? I've already talked myself into Texas.
Okay, well, explain why.
All right, so
But I like that your disclaimer that you overthunk this.
yes, I've already overthought this, but I think this pays off because, and I'll tell you, I put my thoughts on pen and paper so I can articulate.
Can I also say one thing too?
Yes.
Wild card Chris Beard does not lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Also, he's up there with Coach K in my book. He doesn't lose in the first round of the tournurnament. I mean, I can't see it happening.
I would take 350 Division I coaches over those two.
Okay, I'm just saying I don't see him making a first round exit.
All right, so here's what scares me is you have one of the hottest teams in the nation now, the one that just watched them not just beat Duke, dismantle Duke. They dismantled UNC, the two biggest names in the ACC. They just took them down in Brooklyn with the nation watching, kicked their asses against a Texas team that has underperformed all fucking year. They have been, honest to God, dog shit. And Ken Pom says they're not dog shit. Ken Pom says they're not dog shit. Ken Pom says they're we're 32nd in adjusted offense, and I don't know where that metric comes from because in the JJ metrics, which is my two fucking eyeballs, they're at least 150th in offense in the country. It is the worst set of offensive plays I've ever watched. But I hate the public dog.
So that's basically it. I mean,
no, okay.
Dude, it's not like Texas has. Sorry, I'm just saying it's not like Texas is one of these teams that's just got incredible talent. You know what I'm saying? Like you watch them play.
Yes, they do. They do have incredible talent.
No, I don't.
I hate Chris Beard.
I disagree.
Where do you think they don't have talent at?
Because I've seen them. I can see them play against Kansas. I've seen them play against Texas.
They beat Kansas. They beat Kansas.
When did they beat? Well,
they beat Kansas.
Was this the game? Did they play 2 games against Kansas?
They may have, but I know they've beaten Kansas once.
Well, with the game I watched against Kansas, I think Kansas beat them. And it looked like, why'd you have to do that? Did they beat Baylor?
I'll have to look back. They do have. Let me pull them up real quick. Let me pull up the KenPom page.
It just seemed like when the Stars were supposed to come out to play, it looked like those teams.
So they did. They lost to Baylor by 7.
Okay.
They beat Kansas once, and they lost to Kansas in overtime once.
So who's really wrong here? I don't know. We can just go over that and leave it at that. How about that?
They beat Tennessee. They beat Tennessee.
They were rated very high to start the season. Everyone was high on Texas, and because of this amazing talent that they have. But to me, it looks like they're just a group of mediocre basketball players.
I agree. I agree they're playing mediocre, but I don't think they are. They have the talent to be such a good offensive team, and that's why I hate Chris Beard so much. As these pieces together are so damn good, and him scaring off Trey Mitchell is the only reason why I'm not hammering Texas. If they had Trey Mitchell in this game, I would take Texas by 10, 15 points. But he scared off Trey Mitchell. He hasn't played in 10 games. I think he quit the team.
Okay, can we go back to the top of the region? I think we know where you're at on that one. We were talking about Gonzaga earlier. Everyone
now I like Texas more after talking to you idiots.
Well, hell yeah, dude. I'm glad. I want you to succeed in life. So whatever I can do to help, buddy. Baylor, I feel like, is one of the weakest 1 seeds I've ever seen. I feel like they got the 1 seed just based off last year's performance. I think that they're
such a casual fan take.
Dude, that's insulting to me.
Everyone's saying this, and it's all
Are
the
they saying
casuals
that? All I've seen is people talking.
You're one of those people that tweet FanDuel tweets and are like, "Oh, Baylor worst 1 seed."
Hey, JJ, you know me. Am I one of those people that quote tweets FanDuel?
I quote tweet FanDuel, but
yeah, well, you're the asshole then. I'm saying that I don't think Baylor is a 1 seed. Come on, just don't insult my whole persona, and just bear with me for a second.
I know, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you.
So do you think that they're better than Gonzaga? I don't. I think Gonzaga is really freaking good. I hate that they're being talked down as a bad 1 seed. They got 2 top 15 picks. Baylor, all they have is Scott Drew.
What?
All right, go ahead now. Rip me apart.
I mean, like, I don't
Beat
think
me,
you're.
Daddy, I'm fine.
I don't. Man to man, I don't think you're terribly far off. They are not as good as they could have been this year. The loss of Chachua cannot be understated. That's such a big piece down low for them.
Well,
missing
LJ the
Cryer,
identity.
Missing LJ Cryer for a month and a half hurt them so much down the stretch, and that's why you see these clunkers on their schedule. There was a stretch this year where they were missing Chachua and Cryer, and that was their 2 biggest pieces going into the year. You got, well, not counting Akinjo. Akinjo, also huge piece. But you have guys that now like starting to step up in Chachua's presence, like Flo Thamba. Great fucking name. He started to step up. Matthew Meyer finally has started to do something besides shoot a 3 and have a mullet on his fucking head. So when like Cryer came back like late February, I think, and since then, I mean, they handled Kansas pretty well. They beat Texas. They handled Iowa State. They did lose to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. I didn't like that game. I didn't like what I saw. Do I think that it's going to be a I don't know, man. Is there a 2 seed that's better than them?
Yes.
Kentucky.
But there's not, yes, Kentucky and Duke are better than Baylor, but the resume is not better. So I understand why you had to put them as 1 seed. I just think they're a weak 1 seed. And also, their identity last year was Mitchell. They do not have, I mean, if they needed a bucket, he could get 100% at any time he wanted to, just bulldoze any opposing point guard. And the defense that Devo Davis was playing last year's season, the dude that looked like a fullback.
For who?
Baylor last year when they won the national championship.
Who's that? David Mitchell?
I think Davian Mitchell, yeah. They don't have that this year. They don't have a dude that can get them a bucket at whenever they need. You're the expert. I'm just putting out my stuff, or else it'd just be you talking the whole time. So I wanted to give my opinion. But you obviously have them handling Norfolk State. UNC. Before we get into UNC, I just want to go back to Texas Tech. If Arkansas would have landed Brady Manick or O'Banner, this team would probably be the number 1 seed overall in the NCAA tournament. If they would, I mean, O'Banner is exactly what Arkansas needs, and Brady Manick just adding that toughness, 3-point shooting ability, and just another dynamic piece would have been amazing. He's the reason that UNC's made this late season comeback. Anyway, they're playing Marquette, and there goes JJ. I don't even know what to do without JJ in the bracket. But UNC, their calling card is that they have excellent guards and Brady Manick. I haven't watched a freaking game of Marquette. That's why we need JJ on the call.
Well, so what we know about Marquette is they will be wreaking havoc with helping Shaka Smart. They'll be
they give up 70.9 points per game. They're 6-6 versus top 25 teams. 54 in the BPI rank.
Shaka Smart got ruined by Texas. I think he's a really good coach.
I agree with that.
Especially in the NCAA tournament. He's shown time and time again with a squad like VCU, which zero talent, was able to make a few runs. So I guess that's scary in that regard. This UNC team feels like they're scrappy. They're not the same UNC teams you're used to seeing with just loaded up. It's a little different vibe. They're going to have to scratch and claw a little more than normal, but I think they're embracing it towards the end of the season. It's not somebody that's going to be able to take over the game. They're going to have to play team basketball, and I don't know.
Marquette plays one of the fastest offenses in the nation. They're just kind of.
I think Hubert Davis is a good motivator. So I think if North Carolina is the better team on paper, I think they're going to be motivated enough to and embrace the underdog role this year.
But this is Hubert's opportunity to also tell people I'm more than just a motivator. I'm a good coach.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Shaka Smart. Not a lot of people are going to outcoach him. You got to just kind of have him play hard. Sure. Play hard enough, I feel like you win. We are missing JJ's analysis.
I am getting some breaking news.
Beep, 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 beep.
Straight from the Dave & Buster's. Wait, really? Really? Oh, really? Okay, interesting. It has been confirmed Will Wade is, in fact, a bitch.
Oh, and that was actually highly contested news. A lot of sources were saying that Will Wade is a bitch based on lots of factors. Could it be his attitude during the game? Sources were saying that was one of the big things that would play into this breaking news. Was it going to be his Teletubby body? And we don't use the word bitch in that way, but there's something about how you put your hands on your torso that would imply you are, in fact, a female dog. So this news, while not surprising, is, in fact, major.
It is. It is. And
okay, let's take a pause and try to get JJ back up here. All right, so
back with the show.
We covered North Carolina Marquette as best as we possibly could, but take us there.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little spacey at the end, guys. We left a note at a neighbor's door that they were too loud because they were, and then they came and confronted us, so I had to deal with that.
And we thought Putin bombed Dallas.
That was a whole thing. Anyway, UNC Marquette. Quick thoughts. You guys skipped me on probably what I literally wrote down as probably the most fun matchup on the bracket.
Well, we're letting you have it now.
Okay, two teams that'll run and beat each other's waistbands for 40 minutes is how I put this. Simple Brains will say to bet the over. I'm telling you now, that's not the move you want to make. It's going to be a total. I haven't seen the numbers yet. I'm going to say it's probably going to be in the mid 150s, I'd say. UNC really doesn't force that many turnovers. They're one of the worst teams at forcing turnovers. But what they do is they force longer possessions and they force bad shots in doing so. So they won't turn the ball over, but they'll goad you into taking bad shots. The biggest part about this game is the rebounding. They are second in the nation at denying offensive rebounds. So they are second in the nation at causing one-and-dones, one shot and to the other end of the court. A good shooting team will pick this team apart. Marquette, they're a good shooting team. They're a decent shooting team, 66th in effective field goal percentage. They do not get offensive boards, though. They are 330th in the nation at getting offensive boards. So if there is a missed shot on Marquette's end of the floor, they are not getting a second look. That ball is going to North Carolina, and I would not be shocked if by the end of the game Marquette had 2 offensive rebounds the entire game. The troubling part is they don't rebound ever. So, they're used to not getting offensive rebounds. The troubling part is they don't get rebounds ever. On the defensive side, they are 306, I should say, and giving up offensive boards. So you're not only a team that can't get an offensive rebound, they can't get a fucking defensive rebound either. So if I were a player prop betting guy, Armando Bacot over rebounds, if it's at 20, bet the over. That guy is going to eat every single ball off the rim.
I don't take you as a player prop betting guy.
I'm not so much a player prop guy, but that one may make me dabble into it.
Okay.
That Armando Bacot may go for 20 and 20. I want you to save that time clip, Justin. And once he goes for 20-20, I want you to post that on Twitter. They do handle the ball well. Their turnover, or UNC does, I should say, handle the ball well. Don't have any super experienced guards. Caleb Love and Davis are sophomores, and that's really the 2 main ball handlers. But they do handle the press well. They've handled it before. There is an element of experience, but not overly experienced. Personally, I'm going to take UNC. The rebounding advantage will be too massive to ignore. If Marquette misses a shot, they won't see another shot for at least 30 seconds.
Is Shaka Smart a good basketball coach?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think
St. Mary's, Wyoming, or Indiana. I think
Indiana.
I told you earlier I like Indiana a lot. As just one of those teams that they snuck into the field, but they probably underperformed during the regular season. They got the pieces to make a run. They're playing St. Mary's.
Yeah, quickly on the play-in game, if you wanted to bet it, I would bet Indiana, obviously. Wyoming, they have one player, Hunter Maldonado, and then Graham, Ike Graham. TJD, Trace Jackson Davis, is going to match up on Graham and pretty much negate anything Graham does. Graham is an excellent ball player, but TJD has every skill set he could possibly need to handle him. So that basically makes it Hunter Maldonado against four Indiana guys. I'll take Indiana all day on that. Now, against St. Mary's, assuming Indiana takes that game, kind of a similar element there. The one thing that St. Mary's can do is deny the ball down low. So Indiana needs to get the ball to Trace to win that game. Can they do that? I think so. I think they have the facilitators to do that in Xavier Johnson. They also have some accessory pieces with Miller's Cop. He can shoot the piss out of it. And, they got one more guy I'm totally forgetting about. Xavier Johnson, we're talking about him. Who cares? Either way, I think they can get the ball to Trace Jackson Davis down low, and I think they'll be able to take down St. Mary's.
A lot of people got UCLA going deep. What do you think about that?
Yeah. UCLA Akron is up next too, by the way. Good segue, Justin.
Yes. UCLA came into the season like preseason top 3, and I said from the very beginning that was way too high. Practically the same roster as last year, and last year they're, like I said, they were rated pretty high in the Pac-12, but they weren't like overly like top 10. But then somehow they're like number 3 preseason this year. I didn't quite get that. I think they're pretty accurately rated at this point. I think a 4 seed's a good measuring stick for them. The matchup with Akron is a good one. Akron isn't a typical run-and-shoot MAC team like Buffalo or Toledo that could pull an upset in March just because of sheer volume of threes taken. You get a hot team, a hot mid-major that can shoot the ball. They can take down pretty much anyone. Not what Akron is. Akron kind of hangs their hat on defense. UCLA has all the defensive components to guard them without fouling them, which is really the only way that Akron gets points is down low and at the stripe. And like I said, UCLA defensively, Juzang, even Miles Johnson, they got the players to play defense on them without sending them to the stripe. So I don't think they're going to have too much trouble with Akron.
I feel like they're in a pretty favorable part of the bracket too to make a deep run.
They are. Let me take an actual look at the entire region real quick.
As a casual, as you mentioned me, as you referred to me earlier, I take a lot of stock in the big game earlier in the season where it was Gonzaga UCLA, and I was really excited about it, but UCLA just got the shit kicked out of them.
True.
So I'm not high on UCLA as a casual. Signing off as a casual.
For a casual, it's a really good take because I actually somewhat agree with that. I never put too much stock in the games that happened before December, but games like that where it's a true measuring stick game, yeah, it's hard to ignore. But theoretically, if you were to take that into account, you also have to take into account a week prior where they beat Villanova.
Fair enough, but I was just saying, like when that's one that kind of sticks into a lot of people's brains. I feel like I am a lot of people. I'm not a casual when it comes to the SEC, but dude, you have to realize that not everyone's like you, and that's why this is insane content. Like this is big brain stuff that you're putting out there for everybody.
Already did Texas, Virginia Tech, so on to Purdue, Yale. I got Purdue going pretty deep.
Okay.
I still haven't told you who I'm picking. I'm actually going to go Virginia Tech that game.
Okay.
Just shut up.
No, I'm going to go Texas.
And you're wrong. So I like Purdue as well.
I don't know.
Me neither.
Sorry. We can go on to Purdue, but like the Horns are 3-4 without Trey Mitchell, and then you have tons of seniors. They got like Marcus Allen or Marcus Carr and Andrew Jones and Courtney Ramey. They have so many seniors. Christian Bish. They have so many seniors, so much experience, so much talent.
Okay, so the knock on Purdue is that they don't play good defense. Here's my thing. It's the NCAA tournament. They're gonna bring it. They're gonna crank it up a notch. I like Purdue a lot to make a run. I don't know what the odds are. I'll look them up while you're giving the breakdown.
Yeah, so I said Purdue got the got the best draw imaginable to get to the second weekend. I did say that Matt Painter is a fraud coach. So he Coach K, and Chris Beard are at the bottom of my coach power rankings. Team has so much talent, 1 to 5. When I say Texas has a lot of talent, it's kind of relative. Purdue probably has twice the talent that Texas has. Edie and Williams down low is lethal. Edie's like this 7'4" freak that still has like light feet, and Travion Williams is just a manimal. He plays like Kenneth Fareed.
Who are they calling John Morant?
What?
On Purdue, they said John Morant Jr.
Oh, I'm gonna say I don't know who they're talking about, but I'm gonna guess it's Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, it's Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey's a dribble drive god. The way that he can, like, you could have a guy like 3 feet in front of him, or less than that, like a foot and a half in front of him, like gearing up for a charge, and he can come full speed and still like maneuver his way around him and not even touch him. He's incredible body control, finishes at the rim better than I've seen probably any college kid finish at the rim. The team, like I said, has so much talent. Between Ivy and Williams, Jaden Ivey, and then your wings, you got Sasha Stefanovic and who am I forgetting? Stefanovic out wide, and I forget. But there's 4 guys for you. But just a massively talented team that could make a good run if they could. They just have these dumbass stretches because they don't have good set plays. I do like them to go deep. I think they got an incredible draw, and they will handle Yale. There's not going to be an Ivy League upset this year.
Sorry, so if you bet $100 in Purdue, you win $2,000. They're plus 1950. I like that as a future bet as well. Let me go back to my bracket. Let's see. We got Murray State and San Francisco. Like, pretty random matchup.
You want me to take this one for you, JJ?
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Go ahead, bud.
Murray State's dog water. That's all. Next.
What is dog water? Hold up. What's dog water?
They're dog balls. They suck. They're horrible.
Sounds
water.
Okay.
Trash water.
You put that team in the SEC, and they're worse than Georgia somehow, and Georgia won 1 frickin' game in the conference.
I disagree with that statement, but I'm just going to go ahead and believe you that they're not legit. In San Francisco, dude, JJ, we don't know shit, please.
They're 32.
Right.
How are they not?
Yeah, Murray State plays in one of the worst conferences in college basketball. Yeah, I mean, their premier foe in the conference is Belmont, and they beat them by 30 points and 40 points.
Christ.
Well, that actually says something about them then.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Belmont's no slaps. They're like an NIT level team. Their non-con was pretty bad. They did win at Memphis. That does count for something. Their point guard.
That was Memphis's like stretch where they were just.
That was when they're. Yeah, that was when like everyone's like Fire Penny, which everyone's still like Fire Penny, but at that point in time it was like Fire Penny.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now the point guard from Murray State. Does anyone know who it is? You're familiar with him.
It's he's a Arkansas transfer, correct? No, Justice Hill.
It was Justice Hill. At one point, Arkansas point guard.
Hey, points to me.
Great job. Great facilitator.
I saw you drop like 30 a couple games.
Yeah, he did that. Usually not his game. He's usually not the scorer, obviously. He's usually the facilitator, and he does a good job at it. He's who we thought he was coming out of high school.
Well, that's a pretty decent ball player, I'd say then.
Yeah, he's a decent ball player. Like I said, the conference is a joke. They faced Belmont. They won by 33 one game and 40 another game. They did have a few 4 or 5 point wins against some pretty bad teams, but they never lost. It does count for something. I talked about the win at Memphis. They did play
SEMO. It doesn't count for anything.
SEMO did play. SEMO was actually one of the better teams in the conference this year, surprisingly. I think they were the 4th
It was
team
Tennessee Martin. It doesn't count for anything. Go ahead. I'll hang up and let you finish.
I can't argue with those points, and that's why I'm hesitant on
Looks
them.
like they thrive on offensive rebounding and forcing turnovers, and that's kind of how they win games.
Gee, thanks, fucking Justin.
Justin, that's
You want-
fine. Give the guy. Let him
wanna-
say something. My God,
You want
JJ.
me to just text you my fucking notes too? You just want to go ahead and take it from here, pal?
Hey, Justin says good things every once in a while. Remember when we were having a hell of a discussion about the SEC, and then he just goes, South Carolina, they got some good cornerbacks.
Hey, and they got drafted in the first
And
round.
They did. All right, if you take more than 1 minute to discuss Kentucky St. Peter's, and I really do have some
We're
questions
talk
about your
about San
mental health.
Francisco.
Okay.
All right, so Murray State's MO is taking care of the ball, creating turnovers. The turnover battle is the battle they focus on. The Dons are the streakier team of the two. No super bad losses. They lost to Gonzaga twice, 3 times. Lost to St. Mary's, BYU. Their worst loss is to Portland. Bit bad loss, but Portland was a mid-tier team in the West Coast Conference, Western Athletic Conference, whatever it is. Very good rates at taking care of the ball and forcing them on the other end. So very similar to Murray State. It's going to be a good battle. It's a crime against humanity. These two got paired together because they are the two best mid-majors, in my opinion, in this tournament. The two most intriguing. I won't say the best, but I'll say two of the most intriguing mid-majors in this tournament. The issue in this game for Murray is they get their points, or not for Murray, they get their points from everywhere. If San Francisco was matched with a team like Alabama, it would be a dream scenario because San Francisco is a top 15 team and limiting the 3. Murray, with his ability to spread the ball, to facilitate it down low, it's going to be able to unmask San Francisco's fairly below interior defense. I think they're around 170th, 180th in pretty much every metric as far as defending inside the perimeter. Name to watch, though, is on San Francisco, Khalil Shabazz, a human microwave. He makes his first shot of the day. Watch out. They could pull it off.
Okay. Kentucky St.
one
Peter's.
game.
If you know shit about St. Peter's, like I said, I will have to call your therapist and have him meet with you.
They play it slow. They play it slow, and that's what they're going to do with Kentucky. Their tempo, I didn't write this down, but I think their tempo was in the 310s, I want to say, when I looked it up. I watched them play quite a bit in the MEAC. I'm sorry, not the MEAC, the MAC, the MACC. The Peacocks. They do, like I said, they slow it down. They got some decent efficiency rates on offense, but nothing that really jumps off the page. Not much here. Possessions will be limited.
Okay.
They're gonna keep it close for a little bit, but in the end, Kentucky's gonna win that by 20 plus.
Okay. What is your what's the spread? If the spread's 25, are we taking Kentucky?
If it's 25, that's where I start to shy away from it. If it gets to 30, obviously you take St. Peter's.
She was one of those guys that, like, against St. Peter's, it's not fair. We're moving on to the South.
Oh, the spread is 17.5, so I would actually really take Kentucky there.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like about it.
There's not going to be a whole lot of possessions, which is going to limit the potential for a 25, 30-point game, but I think 17.5 is just too small there.
As you can
Well,
tell,
they do have good corners too. So.
They're great
they got good corners. JJ, as you can tell, like, he knows his shit when it comes to college basketball. So in the past, and this is also in college football, admittedly, even though I feel like that's just on me because I'm in my own head, I feel like JJ and I are pretty close in terms of college football knowledge. But I asked JJ for a pick when I'm really down bad, and he is 100% so far.
I'm not kidding you. I've probably given you 8 plays this year, and they are 8 now.
Yes, but those are my must needs. But your problem is you text me like 15 different picks after, and sometimes I play them, sometimes I'm not. They're not always wrong, but when I need a win, you're 100% right. And this was early in the year. You said you love Arizona, and that was their game against Illinois, and they covered the spread. I remember that because it was a huge game for me. I really needed that, and ever since then I've been high on Zona, and I've watched them play a couple more times. Pac-12 is hard to watch over here, but I know you've been high on them all year, so I'm wondering if you're still on their train.
If there was a stock, I bought the stock probably at the lowest point, which when they were relatively no-name. I think that at that point they were still like a 40-1 to win the championship, which was insane to me, and I hate myself for not taking that. I'm still high on them, but I'm not as high. They did lose a guard whose name just totally escapes my brain at the moment. They lost a guard, which is a somewhat big loss. I wouldn't say a big loss. It's a loss. They do have the ability to cover it up. The name there is Mothrin in Arizona. He is the do-it-all they have a lot of pieces, but Mothrin is the piece that he's going to be a top 5 pick. He's that kind of talent. Maybe not top 5, we'll say top 10, but he is that kind of talent. As far as their game against the 16th seed, obviously not a whole lot to say, but what I will say, it will be a fun game, whoever wins that playing game. Wright State and Wright State and Bryant, both run and gun teams. Yeah, they both get up and down the court, which, of course, Arizona does as well, and it's super fun to watch. Obviously, Zona just does it 20, 100 times better than either of those two teams. Whatever the over-under is, at least for the team total for Arizona, if the team total for Arizona is anything south of 100, take the over.
Okay.
Little known fact about Wright State, real quick before we move on, they did steal our fight song, so look out for that in Dayton.
There's also a MAC team that has our fight song. And I won't. Oh, actually, wait, no, it is Wright State. Never mind. No, you're right.
Can you give us a really quick synopsis on what happened in the Bryant? There was like a mouse in the palace type deal.
Yeah, so I will say one thing about Bryant, if they do get in, a guy to watch is Peter Kiss.
Yes, dude, what a sick ass name. Seriously.
Sick name.
It literally translates to blowjob.
Literally translates to blowjob. And the guy, if there was ever someone that's in a mid-major that you point to and be like, that guy, in an alternate universe, he's on Duke, it's this guy. He gets under your skin so even as a viewer with no dog in the fight, you watch a game of his and you watch how he acts in the court, and you just want to beat his fucking brains in. He is the worst, but god damn it, he's so good at basketball.
Well, that's the kind of guy you love in March Madness.
He's gonna get some screen time, especially if they pull this off against Wright State.
Dude, hey! Who was trivia question? Who was the fat kid that played for Marshall that was nailing threes? I love that
kid
guy.
For Marshall.
Remember that team, that Marshall team?
Fat kid for Marshall.
You know what I'm talking about?
For some reason, I don't. It's not ringing a bell.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to Seton Hall TCU.
Yeah, so this one's a stumper for me. It's going to be a stinker. This game's going to suck. I would say none of us are even going to watch it. This game's going to be an absolute hold your nose and check the final score after the game.
Dude, okay, can I say something about TCU right quick? They're like the most unexciting basketball team of all time. I remember when they played Arkansas, and I'm a big Grizzlies fan, and they had Desmond Bane, and everyone's like, watch out for Desmond Bane. I mean, his game is like what TCU is. It's like quiet success.
Yeah, so my blurb, TCU kind of came out of nowhere to be safely in come Selection Sunday. They played through a tough schedule, but they didn't win a ton. Like, they didn't really have any woe wins. The Texas comeback in the Big 12 tournament was very impressive. Actually, they did beat KU and Texas Tech. I said they didn't have any impressive wins. Of course they did. They beat KU and Texas Tech back-to-back in late February, both at home, but still incredible wins on the back-to-back. Defensive-minded, elite at offensive rebounding. They turn the ball over way too much. They're 336th in turnover rate. They're horrific at the line, 324th. And from three, they're 320th. They can't shoot the fucking ball. They can rebound and they can play D. That's your blurb for TCU. They win games in the interior. Seton Hall doesn't exactly jump off the page either, but they do.
But they're always in.
They're always in. They take care of the ball. They will be able to force some turnovers at the other end. Veteran leadership and Roden and Miles Cale. It's going to be big against a team like TCU. They did have Harvard transfer Bryce Aiken play, but he got hurt about a month or two ago. Big loss for him, and it's shown on the offensive game, or in their offensive game. They haven't scored more than 60 points since March the 2nd. So under 60 points since then in every game. I think it's like 4 or 5 games they haven't eclipsed 60 points. It's going to be a stinker. I will lean Seton Hall, but I'd take the under, whatever it is. If it's anything north of 120, take the under for sure.
Okay, so the next game we got Jelly versus the Frauds. I think Houston is fraudulent as all get out. They cannot beat a good team. If they were in the Big 12, they would be possibly a play-in game. I don't think Houston is capable of making a run. I think that Jelly, this is the 5-12 matchup. Well, you know what? I take that back. I'm overthinking it, kind of like you were with Virginia Tech, Texas. Houston has beat mediocre teams easily all year long. But when it comes to playing a good team, I think they're in big doo-doo. But I'd like to hear what you have to say.
There's one team here that I love, and I will reveal it after JJ goes.
I love Houston here.
Okay, here's fine, but they're not making a fucking run.
They're not making a run, but this one gave me. I'll say this one gave me a headache when I was first breaking it down. Houston had injury issues. Obviously, it's been well documented. They lost
Is
Marcus
it because
Sasser.
he doesn't like public dogs?
That's a big reason. They did lose Marcus Sasser early on in the year. That was a major hit. Fabian White has something wrong with his vertebrae. It's one of their big men. He tore up Memphis on Sunday, but he couldn't sit down in a seat. He had to stand the entire game even when he was out because if he sits, it locks his hips up. Really weird, but he scored. He went for 20 and 10 against Memphis. It was one of the more incredible things I've ever watched. Fabian White, Kyler Edwards, a Texas Tech transfer, and Jamal Sheed. They have really picked up the slack from Sasser leaving, or I should say, getting hurt. This was a team preseason that was going to be a 1 seed. They were going to fight for a 1 seed. And like I said, the loss of Sasser was huge for them. The guard play has picked up, especially toward the end of the season. It does go through the post and Josh Carlton and Fabian White, though. It's kind of where they get most of their production on the defensive and offensive ends. A fully healthy Fabian rolls UAB. The injury to Fabian makes me a little leery. It just feels like, I don't know. It does feel like one of those things where Jelly is one of the players that's kind of going to lift a mid-major to a Sweet 16, doesn't it?
It feels like that 100%. Like Jelly,
but
just
that's
the
why,
name and
but
everything.
That's why you don't say that.
Well, stop.
This is your
stop getting in your
This
head.
is your fisherman's friends lock 12 seed to the Sweet 16 UAB and Andy Kennedy. Take him to the Sweet 16 and thank me later. Andy Kennedy, baby.
I forget about
best
him.
basketball coach in Ole Miss history.
That helps you really just want to nail UAB. But JJ, that's between you and God. We're gonna move on to Illinois, who I like this storyline. I like that they lost Loyola Chicago, and last year seemed like it was going to be their year. But I'm not super impressed with their regular season resume. That's just based off feeling.
I don't know. I think they had a pretty good resume.
But I mean, I think they kind of picked it up early on. I mean, Kofi Cockburn.
Coburn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not Cockburn. It's Coburn.
But it's spelled Cockburn, correct?
It's absolutely spelled Cockburn.
Okay, sorry. I literally thought it was Cockburn, and no jokes at all. Sorry. Kofi Cockburn is, I mean, he's, until you run into somebody like Oscar Tshiebwe, that's just he's an outlier in college basketball, and that's really all I know about this team, JJ. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of people, there's a lot more to Illinois than Coburn, but to start with that matchup, so a lot of people are kind of picking a dark horse upset there because they point at Chattanooga. And do you guys remember Silvio DeSalzo for Kansas?
I do.
He transferred, and he plays for Chattanooga right now.
Why did he transfer?
He was disciplinary. He got kicked off the team. He ended up at Chattanooga.
Well, that makes sense.
So a lot of people say this is the 13 to beat the 4. Here's the thing about DeSalza playing there is in games that haven't gone to OT, DeSalza hasn't played over 23 minutes in a game since January. And if you look at the box score, it's not because he's not necessarily playing bad. It's that he can't stay out of foul trouble. So you have this guy that's on the defensive end, especially, he is kind of their anchor facing Kofi Coburn. And I mean, if the guy doesn't have 3 fouls at half, I will cut off a pinky toe. He's going to get in foul trouble like that.
Flip that. It could be like the Kyle Peterson ass tat. No one really cares, but
yeah, he's going to get in foul trouble so quick against Kofi. And if he doesn't get in foul trouble, it's going to give because he's just going to give up the buckets to Kofi.
I'm here in Illinois all the way. It seems like you're very skeptical of this upset.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. This is the worst matchup possible that UGC could have had. They could have really had any other 4 seed that you can make a case that they play good enough defense, and they do have a good guard in Malachi Smith. He's a great piece on the offensive end. But when Silvio's out, it's 1 versus 5. And Silvio's going to be out a major part of this game because he just can't keep out of foul trouble.
Well, Loyola had that guy last year in that upset win with the mustache, and he was fat. And he played his ass off against Kofi, and they don't have that. I've seen Chattanooga play. They don't have that dude, that same guy with mustache and fat. Yeah. The next matchup is dude. I love the storyline from Michigan. I really do. Like the villain, Juwan Howard coming back and them sneaking in. I don't know, man. There's something about in Michigan. They have talent, like up and down the roster, like. Juwan Howard's recruited incredibly well, and when a team like Michigan is like an 11 seed, that scares me. Like you don't want to face a team like that, in my opinion. But I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know the analytics like you do, JJ. But I just like the storyline with Michigan, and I feel like Colorado State. That's not a good matchup for them as a 6. Like, well, we're finally a 6. Now you get to play Michigan. Like that's
such a terrible draw for them. And what's kind of crazy is you can't even call them a public dog, Michigan, because they're actually favored in the game.
But 100%. Like,
I think Michigan rolls this game. Colorado State underwhelmed down the stretch. David Roddy is more or less a one-man show out there, and oftentimes he's not as fantastic. And that's when they really struggle. Isaiah
Can I say something too about Colorado State?
Go ahead.
So as a kid, this is something that's ingrained in your head, like a young child, probably the age of 7 or 8. My grandparents used to live in Fort Collins, and for a Friday night treat, they took me to a Colorado State game, and it literally, legitimately felt like a Lion College basketball game, like NAI type of atmosphere. So I've always been under the impression that like Colorado State is like a bottom tier mid major. I don't know how they don't have a good basketball program, so this is like a one-off type of thing. I feel like now that JJ's
according to BetMGM, this is the most bet game.
Probably, I'm gonna say money's poured in on Michigan.
Oh yeah,
I'm late on that one. That was one I should have got on.
Any guesses on what the third most bet game is?
I mean,
Vermont.
Yeah, the
people
reason
like
you're asking.
What's the spread?
A lot of money. That's the most bet team is Vermont.
What's the spread?
5.5.
I don't necessarily love that, but I see why people are.
It's the most bet team at 5.5. Vermont.
People like the 4-13 matchup, so I understand why they're doing that. And 5.5 is a lot of points, but I don't love that. I understand why it's happening though. Back to JJ. Like I said, I love Michigan, and I think Colorado State is a one-off kind of. They got an unlucky draw, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and people point to their non-con as reason they could be for real, but I mean, if you look at them, the teams they beat were underperforming teams. Like Creighton, especially in the beginning of the year, super underperforming. They ended up being a decent team, but in the beginning of the year, very underperforming. They beat Mississippi State. They super underperformed this year. They were supposed to be a top half team in the SEC, and they really didn't end up being a top half team in the SEC. They don't necessarily have any bad losses, but they just don't have the firepower to win a game like this. Michigan can score 1 through 5, and you have a team of Colorado State. I mean, if Roddy's not on, forget about it.
Don't you love the storyline though?
Yeah, the storyline lines up, especially with Juwan having to do like a 4-day suspension, 4-game suspension.
Are you drinking your Chardonnay, my guy?
Yeah, we switched to white wine. Now it's going to get fucking testy because this next game is where shit's going to hit the fan.
Tennessee versus Longwood literally translates to big penis.
This game was one of those where I had like a 2-word blurb, and I was like, all right, let's just kind of dig into the numbers a little bit.
So I really like Tennessee. Even they won the SEC, which is like a sign that you shouldn't like them, right? When you win the SEC tournament. But
yeah,
I mean, they're just such a good, gritty team, and I think Kennedy Chandler is he good to go?
Yeah, I think he is.
Okay, so you got Kennedy Chandler, and you got 2 Europeans. Like Woof, that's a scary situation, but I just like Michigan's storyline so much, but that's going in the second round. You probably know a lot about Longwood, so I'll let you get into it.
You're
talking. By the way, before you say this, don't talk yourself into Longwood, JJ. Just don't do it.
It's too late. I'm so far past gone.
You're such a dumbass.
I think this is the big one.
Justin,
really think
look
this
up the
is
spread,
big one.
please.
It's like 20. I think it's like 18 and a half.
Okay, so I'll take the spread. I'll take Longwood to cover, but because you're smart. But I'm not taking them to win. Come on.
There's a reason. There's multiple reasons. One of which being this narrative that
it's 17.
JJ, you like them to win, of course. They're covering, right? That's a lock.
They're going to cover. They're at least going to cover.
Okay, that's
All
a
right.
lock.
So
17 is a lot.
Let me go through this real quick. Oh Lord, I really dug into this one because once I saw one thing, it led to another and to another, and I'm like, holy shit, this has a lot. So the first things first.
Get your popcorn ready.
The first thing, obviously, is the narrative for me. The narrative is that Tennessee fans and Tennessee players think they deserve a 1 or 2 seed. They're pissed off that they get seeded higher. We've seen that so many times, and we've seen the teams come out so fucking flat out of the gate. A lot of times, those teams tend to rebound. It's usually Duke. They come out flat, and then they tend to fire up in the second half and win, but not cover. The narrative there falls perfectly in line with that. Tennessee fans are pissed off. Tennessee players are pissed off. Oh, we deserve a 1 seed. Oh, we deserve a 2 seed. Oh, we're SEC champs. Oh, it doesn't even fucking matter that we won the SEC. The chip on their shoulder in that scenario is not good. They're holding on to stuff that doesn't even fucking matter anymore. Now, that's just human psychology. And that doesn't really matter in betting to me. So I don't take that too much into consideration.
Oh, brother, it matters. Oh,
Here we go. Longwood can shoot the ball, boys. Longwood, does anyone want to guess where they rank from 3-point range nationally?
Give me one.
A little bit lower.
God damn it. 3.
6th.
What division do they play in?
They are 6th in the nation.
What conference are they in?
They're not SoCon. They're
Big South, I think, aren't they?
I think they're Big South.
No way.
Yeah, they get to the line. They are. I would say elite at getting to the line. They're 49th in the nation at getting to the line. They shoot the free throws decently. They're kind of middle of the pack, 150th in actually shooting them, but they do get to it a lot. They rebound the ball extremely well.
It's the Big South. They're in the Big South.
On the offensive boards, they're 20th. On the defensive boards, they're 47th. Both top 50 in the nation on both ends at rebounding. On defense, they're top 75 in turnovers, and they keep the opponents from scoring quick. They're 318th in opponent's possession time. If Tennessee has the ball, they're not going to be getting straight to the rim. There's going to be denials. There's going to be hands in passing lanes. They're not going to be able to cut right through this defense. The defense was
This is ridiculous.
The defensive weakness is down low for Longwood. That's where they don't have a ton. They rebound well, but they don't have a ton of size to defend down low.
So big game for Fulke.
Could be a big game for Fulke, but if you look analytically, Tennessee ranks 292nd in scoring rate inside. They do not score from inside the arc.
Because they're playing SEC teams, my God, JJ, you're.
Where are we inside the arc? We're literally top 100 in scoring inside the arc.
Yeah, because we're playing other SEC teams.
Why is Tennessee 292?
Dude, do you think Rick Barnes isn't going to be like, hey, let's just throw the ball inside against Longwood?
You know what? I actually do kind of think that because, you're falling right into this shit.
Let's not act like Rick Barnes has a storied history tournament.
Rick Barnes.
But I said that. I'm not a basketball coach. You just have to think
Rick Barnes in his last 13 NCAA tournaments. Does anyone want to guess? And this is just against the spread. Does anyone want to guess what he is against the spread in his last 13 March games? His last 13 tournaments.
I would if he's covered 2. If he's covered less than that 1, he's 1-12.
He is 1-11-1.
Jeez. Are you serious? Against the spread?
Since Texas made the Elite Eight in 2008, Rick Barnes' teams have made it past the first weekend once in 9 trips, including being knocked out in the second round as a 3 seed in 2018 when the Vols lost to number 11 seed Loyola. Now, obviously, Loyola, a little bit of a Cinderella there. I'll give you that.
Listen, so the reason I said, I just want to be clear and go back. The reason I said, don't you think Rick Barnes is going to do this is because I just said the head coach's name of the team. I wasn't like saying like Rick Barnes, the person, just like, wouldn't you think that any coach in America would see that statistic and be like, let's take advantage of it? We have the personnel to do so.
No.
Well, if that's the case, then since you said that, plus 17, Longwood. Let's go.
Now, the only reason I don't like that anymore is because I've seen 3 guys on Hog Twitter that I despise. Not despise. I think they're stupid. Say that they like that they like Longwoods, and I'm just kind of reeling it back a little bit, but I still love it.
Are you sure that they weren't saying that they like Longwood?
That also could be it. It's kind of confusing.
All right. This one's intriguing, I suckered into it. I took Loyola. Isn't it Denzel Valentine's brother, the coach at Loyola?
It is, yeah. Drew Valentine is their coach.
I swear I think they're building a program. Like, this is not VCU Shaka Smart. Like, this is a team that, I mean, they have in the Missouri Valley, like, they could actually be yearly, maybe a lower tier Gonzaga. Loyola Chicago is
they're leaving the Valley to begin with. So
stay with me. I hate public dogs.
You do.
I'm not doing this. I am
they
not
set
falling
this
in this
up
trap.
for us.
I'm not falling in this trap.
They set this up for us. Ohio State's the worst 7 seed.
And that's exactly what they want you to think.
know.
And that's exactly they are putting the cheese on the trap for you here.
No, they're doing this because they want Loyola Chicago they want them to advance.
No.
First of all, who is they? They big college basketball wants Loyola to advance. That's why they pitted them against Ohio State. I swear to you. And I know I'm not buying into it.
Who wants to see them?
Everybody loves Loyola Chicago.
Everyone?
Sister Jean is March now. Dude, I know. You say that.
They're leaving the Valley.
I'm talking about TV, dude. No one likes Jimmy Fallon, but he keeps on showing up because, I don't know, he does numbers. I'm telling you. This is the one. This is the... Maybe I'm a sucker, dude. Now that I'm talking to you, now I'm saying this, I like a lot of public dogs, but damn it, dude. Come on.
I have it written right here. I don't like the job Drew Valentine has done with this Rambler team this year. A lot of close calls against some really bad teams. They got taken to double overtime by Valparaiso, and they beat Valparaiso again by 1 point. Yes, they did win both those games, but Valparaiso is not your typical Valparaiso strong and major. They were horrible this year.
They played Michigan State close.
Who, Loyola?
Yes.
I mean, at that point in the year, Michigan State wasn't anything right home about either.
But they were Michigan State, and they were Loyola, so, I mean...
Okay, well, Ohio State has handled Michigan State.
Well, I'm just saying they played good teams decently.
The rules on Loyola, especially after the past few years' performances, and then especially last year's Ohio State performance, they are putting the cheese on the trap here. Everyone saw what they saw them lose to Oral Roberts. They saw Loyola make these 2 magical runs, and they still want you to take Loyola. They're begging you to take him at this number.
Give it to me. I swear to God.
I mean, you have every reason to put everything on Loyola here. Ohio State lost 4 of the last 5 coming into this tournament. But the pieces are there. EJ Liddell can feast on this interior defense of Loyola.
I can't believe he's still there, by the way. I realized that like a month ago that he's still there. I was like, how is that possible?
We're going to have to disrespect the Midwest portion of the bracket and go real fast so I can have time to edit.
Well, that's good because I didn't do a whole lot, though. It's kind of why I lost steam halfway through the Midwest bracket. Yeah,
Villanova
like
is not the Villanova of the past, but Connor Gillespie is like he is March.
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts here. I said you'll see a lot of Nova and Delaware offensively. They kind of run similar offenses, but that's about it. Very balanced offensively.
I got Kansas winning it all.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes! Hey! Dude, that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, I feel. I mean, I've only filled out one bracket, and it was a gut reaction one. But
Same.
I mean, kind of the way the bracket fell. It's just, I mean, Kansas just kind of ended up being there.
Dude, that white kid is amazing.
Bill Self-Toupee, thanks you.
Christian Braun.
I filled out 7, and I've got him winning
Christian
one of
Braun.
them.
Christian Braun is like he's
Brown.
not.
It's actually Brown.
He doesn't play like a white kid plays. If that makes any sense at all.
He's got a little certain inflection in his voice.
He reminds me of Dylan Brooks.
I don't know. He's bigger than Brooks.
He's bigger than Dylan Brooks.
Yeah,
I think they're about the same size, man.
They
They're
could
just
be.
defensively and just like, I mean, he's got LeBron chase down type of athleticism. It's pretty wild watching him play.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. The thing that worries me about Kansas is the dude's name. Please, you know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to butcher it. It's of African origin.
Oh, Agbaji.
Agbaji is very streaky.
He can be, but I don't know. I think he's kind of turned a corner. But I will say the only thing I wrote on this blurb is no thoughts here except Kansas is my favorite team heading into the tournament. So you're on the right path there, at least in my eyes.
I love that. I love that for myself. Creighton, San Diego State. This game sounds like it's going to be a stinker as well.
It's going to be so bad that
but stinker with a buzzer beater. This one's the buzzer beater. If you could bet that.
This one has like 51 to 48 written all over it. I love it. I can't wait to watch this game. Not your prototypical Creighton team. When you think of Creighton, you think of kind of like Dougie McBuckets, shooting threes, jacking shit. Kind of what this team is. Slow, very slow on offense. Not that good on offense. I think they barely are within the top 100 in Kim Palm of adjusted offense. Metrically play elite defense. I believe they are top 15, top 20 in adjusted defense. Now they did lose Ryan Nemhart, freshman guard that really came into his own down the stretch. They lost him about a month ago. They're 3-3 without him. And what's suffered most because of that is the offense. Nemhart was their facilitator and required. That is required against a team like San Diego State. If Creighton has an elite defense, San Diego State has a mega elite defense. Second overall in adjusted D in the nation, San Diego State. They have the second best adjusted defense in the entire nation behind Texas Tech.
Dude, sorry. No, you go ahead. Finish with your thought.
They're gonna be in the hip of every ball handler on the court. So having a guy like Nemhard that can distribute the ball is crucial. Sadly, they won't have him. It's gonna be an absolute slugfest. My only concern with this game is if San Diego State can score enough against Creighton. They can't fucking score. San Diego State cannot score. Here's their points scored against top 50 defenses. Ready for this one? They scored 65 in a win in November at Arizona State. After that one, 43 points in a loss to USC, 37 points in a loss to Boise, 61 to Fresno in a win, 57 to Boise in a loss, 65 points in double overtime against Fresno, 53 points against Fresno, and 52 points against Boise.
I think the best time to bet college basketball is early on in the season, and Creighton was one that I had my eye on because their spreads were like, I was like, there's no way Creighton doesn't cover against blank team like Longwood or just some random school, and they can never score enough points. So I'm with you on that one. Now, what I was going to say earlier, JJ, is I'm looking at the Midwest, and this one is the most intriguing bracket by a mile. Like, there's so many teams that could make a run. I mean, you talk about Iowa, LSU, Wisconsin, and Auburn, and you got Villanova and Kansas. Like, dude, this bracket is this Midwest portion is going to be a wild card. I'm excited about this one. But anyway, Iowa is very hot. Obviously, they're a hot choice. They're going up against Richmond, who just beat Davidson. So.
We have some breaking news out of the Dave and Buster's here in Buffalo as well. For those of you that are taking Iowa to the Final Four, You stop fucking up. Richmond.
I agree, but they're hot. Like, it makes sense.
God, I fall into this trap every year with this team. I think I was so good, and they're just not that good when it comes down to it.
No, they're not.
They're
But they're good. They're good in the sense of tournaments.
So the weird thing about this is I probably watched more Richmond than Iowa this year. In the past 2 years, I've really watched a lot of Richmond basketball, and I can't explain to you why. It's just like a matter of chance that like I just happened to stumble upon
By the
games.
way, I love the spiders. I love that as a team logo. Like, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, especially just generic spiders, not even like a specific like Black Widow or
Just,
you know.
It's literally like remember in NCAA where you could do like the Tiburon sharks. It was just like a shark. That's what I think of the spiders. Just like literally they got it from clip art.
Yes.
I do love that. What I will say about that particular game, both teams do have fantastic offensive pieces. They will go back and forth. I'll probably end up taking it over in that game. Iowa has beaten a tournament team 6 times in the last 30 days. I find that very impressive. Murray, Bohannon, McCaffrey, just such a killer trio. The Murray twins are really making a quartet. God, their offense is so good. The thing is, I've always liked this Richmond team, and I can't explain to you why. You got Tyler Burton, Grant Golden, Jacob Gilliard. That's like kind of their core 3. Gilliard, I think, plays like the most minutes in the NCAA. He rarely comes off the court. He's a great average point guard, if that makes sense. He's not going to but he's not going to get beat.
Well, Davidson reminds me a lot of Iowa. Just, I mean, I don't know, a lot of white kids on the floor, a lot of 3-point volume, and Richmond got the dub against that. So I feel like Iowa is going to be a huge pick for a lot of people, and they might get stopped early. I think I like Richmond.
I'll take him against the spread. I think Iowa ultimately pulls that out.
Yeah.
But,
Iowa's not like just that. I mean, they have that dude that's a big, like, freaking, just a what do you call it? I mean, he's a freaking he's a dump truck of a man.
wait, who?
Iowa's big.
I was big, not Murray.
No, big. Just big and big. Huge.
Why is that escaping me? Hold on.
Okay.
That would be
I think he actually might be like a backup. I don't know.
who could that be? They don't have anyone over 6'9".
I just watched him play. He's fat.
I don't know who that could be, Pete.
I just watched him play. He's fat. It's fine.
They have a 6'4" guy named Tony Perkins, but he's not fat.
No, it's a fat, big dude.
Philippe Rabaka, he's 6'9", 230.
Yeah, that's not actually that big. Okay, Providence. He's not like he's just their center. That's like big name. Big man is another name for center. Okay, Providence, South Dakota State.
You called him fat. That was literally words that you said.
He is fat. I'll find him. Just go Providence, South.
These are where my blurbs kind of wore off. I got really tired today, but I do know enough about the rest of these teams to kind of like give some insight. South Dakota run and gun. This is another public dog, but I actually like this public dog because I hate Providence. I think kind of everyone by the end of the year hated on Providence, and it's kind of like a public hate, but I think it's so warranted. It's one of those things where I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit of hipster hating on Providence because like in November I called them the biggest fraud in the NCAA. And then everyone come like January, February, call them the biggest fraud. So I felt a little cool/smart. And I actually kind of stay on that train. I'm not going to switch course there. I really think they're incredibly lucky, and Ken Palm luck matrix. I don't know how he computes that, but they do lead the nation by far in luck. So you come across a team like South Dakota State that can shoot the piss out of the ball and run it up and down. I think they're going to take that Providence pretty easily, but I think they're going to win that game by 5, 6, 7 points. And that, kind of looking ahead, South Dakota State versus Iowa is just going to be. If that total is 170, it wouldn't shock me.
We have some breaking news out of the Dave and Buster's here in Buffalo. Ed Cooley will use his bonus from the Sweet 16 to buy Pete a new phone case.
Yeah, that's looking tough, bud.
Dude, that was a Lime scooter incident, a blackout in Little Rock. I hit but it's kept its form. Does the name Josh Ogundelli ring any bells?
A little bit. I don't think he's a major.
For Iowa,
fan,
6'11", 265.
I'm guessing that's who that is then.
It's not Philip because this dude I'm talking about is not of Caucasian descent.
Okay.
I believe it's Agadubi. Now,
You nailed that.
we are going to LSU, Will Wadeless LSU. That's one's intriguing to me. But I actually like LSU. Even though Arkansas handled them, I don't understand. I think
if there's 100 points scored in this game, I'd be shocked. This is going to be such an ugly basketball game.
Every time I watch LSU play Arkansas, like I'm surprised. I'm surprised we beat them 3 times. Like they are talented up and down.
They have plenty of athleticism. They just don't really have a game plan when they have the ball. It's just kind of run around and
I think Pinson really is like the gear that gets them going. Like if he's out there facilitating.
Yeah, he organizes them on offense pretty well. Enough. I'll say organize them enough because without him, it really is just a game of run and jump.
The floater in the NCAA tournament, I feel like is a big shot that it's one that's needed at times.
Yeah, just a little route buster.
Because teams are playing such like focused defense,
tight on ball.
That a floater is something that is actually going to be open quite a bit. So that's one to watch. I'm going to keep on looking at the futures, but we're at Wisco right now. Wisco Colgate.
I'm seeing a lot of guys going for Colgate here. It's not the same Colgate as last year that gave us a little bit of a scare. The only thing to really watch for here is Johnny Davis's health. Without Johnny Davis, Wisconsin has struggled mightily. They actually in their game against
plus
Nebraska,
6,900, like I said earlier.
For who?
So Wisconsin. So if you bet $10, you win $690.
Yeah, I mean, you got to watch for Johnny Davis's health here. He got hurt in the Nebraska game basically at half, and everyone knows how bad Nebraska is. Wisconsin, I think, at that point in time was up. Let's say they're up 8 or 9, and they ended up losing that game outright to Nebraska after Johnny Davis left the court. So Johnny Davis is not only the straw that stirs the drink, he is the entire drink and the additives in it.
Another team that's plus 6,900 is North Carolina. Just another one that you might want to look at.
I don't hate that. But anyway, that's the only thing to watch for as far as Wisconsin. If Johnny Davis isn't 100%, if he's playing, they'll beat Colgate. If he's not playing, they won't. And if he's not 100%, they're not going to beat LSU, I feel like.
USC and Miami are both frauds, in my opinion.
USC is. I was in the boat of Miami being a fraud for the longest time, but I'm starting to think they could potentially be a Sweet 16 team.
Okay, then you got Auburn and Jacksonville State.
I just saw a few stats to point toward Jacksonville State here, and I don't trust Auburn away from Auburn.
Dude, but...
Huh?
You muted yourself.
You dumbass.
Okay,
I
sorry.
thought that was just me.
I just said... I said the words, but Auburn is so good.
Are we like?
Are they?
On that?
Yeah, I think that.
Are we 100% that they're good?
I think that. I mean, this is gonna sound so biased, but like, there's a way to stop them. Like, there's a way to slow them down. But I mean,
to put it lightly, they barely scrapped 6. Did they even get to 60 against A&M? I don't think they did.
I don't know, man. They're a 2 seed. They're a 2 seed, which makes them dangerous. I mean, they shouldn't be a 2 seed. I feel like that's high for them, but like that gives them a good path to make a run.
I don't like it.
And they can beat anybody in the country. You got Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith. I mean, my God, like, what more could you possibly want?
The weird thing about
and Bruce Pearl's a good coach.
The weird thing about Auburn's path is If they make it past the winner of USC Miami, they can definitely beat whoever comes out of LSU's pod. I'm not 100% they can make it out of that pod. I think USC and Miami can give them a game, and I hate USC. I think they're a total fraud. The USC is, I think, dead last in the country in free throws, like a total fraud. But they do have Mobley down low. They have guys like Peterson, Drew Peterson, and Boogie Ellis running the point. They have enough to, I think, give Auburn quite the game.
Okay, so we've ran through the whole bracket now. JJ, I want your final four, and then we'll circle back to Arkansas one last time before we end the pod.
It's still so early, but my final four at this moment is Duke, Purdue, Arizona, Kansas.
I have Kansas, Arizona, Duke, and I do not know who else. But I'm with you. Sorry. Actually, is Kentucky in the same region as Purdue?
Yeah.
Then I have Kentucky.
I've got Kansas and Villanova on the bottom, Kentucky, and I went Homer, Arkansas.
Okay, well, let's talk about Arkansas.
Kentucky beating Kansas in the final, by the way.
My most serious is Gonzaga, Purdue, Arizona, Kansas.
I like Purdue a lot. I understand why everyone's going Purdue, but they're just their defense has been so bad. But like I said earlier, I don't think it matters as much as the NCAA tournament. They'll bear down. I think Oscar Sheba is one of those special players that can win you a championship. We don't see those kind of guys at Arkansas. Not yet.
I'm gonna be really, really intrigued on that game to see him against Zach Edey, though.
Yeah,
can he out rebound a 7-3 guy?
Yes. Here's the thing about Oscar Sheba.
He did that against Western Kentucky, and Western Kentucky has Sharp. Sharp is like a 7-3 guy, but he's a freshman, I think. He's a freshman or sophomore. He's not quite the rebounder that Edey is.
It's easy to hate Kentucky, and especially Arkansas fans, but one thing that Sheboy does differently than some other Kentucky players of the past is he plays his ass off. And that's why I think a lot of people are picking Kentucky. You got somebody with that kind of strength and size and ability that absolutely plays their ass off, like a la Bobby Portis. I mean, that's a recipe for success. So, but I'm still going Kansas. Now,
yeah, I mean,
let's finish it. Sorry.
As far as Kentucky goes, I mean, as dangerous as the mid-major could potentially be, you couldn't have asked for a better draw. I mean, getting paired up with Murray State and Sanford, like I said, as dangerous as they could be at face value, you couldn't really ask for a better draw as a 2 seed.
Okay, so let's talk about Arkansas one last time before the pod's over. The draw is, I think, favorable, except for let me pull it up. I mean, assuming you beat Vermont, you go on and you play UConn, which is kind of a give or take. Like I asked you earlier, I don't know how good UConn is. What do you think about if they make it to the Sweet 16 and they had to play UConn?
That'd be
round of 32.
Yeah, that'd be round of 32.
Sorry, round of 32.
I don't know. Sonogo could give Jalen some issues size-wise, but I don't know. Jalen's held his own against post-dominant players like that. That wouldn't worry me too much. It'd be a good matchup of guards, JD against RJ Cole. Really two very similar teams as far as defensive pressure and offensive intensity and how they get their points. To me, that game is pretty much a toss-up, and I think kind of KenPom would agree with me there.
I like it when Arkansas plays a team that's similar to them. I think that Musselman's good enough to coach. He coaches them to do what they do best, and I think that when you play a team that's built similar, then I think you got to go to the coaches, and I like Muss in that matchup. But then you got to
Muss and Hurley are like the same coach almost to me.
Right, and I think Arkansas's got a better roster, and they're more athletic. Then you got to play Gonzaga, or Texas Tech, right? Or no? Who do you play? You play Duke.
Gonzaga or Memphis, or Gonzaga, Memphis, or
Boise State.
Boise State.
Shit, my bracket's all messed up.
Yeah, it is.
So just say Gonzaga for the sake of argument. I think that it's not a bad number one matchup.
It's as good as number one matchup I think as you can get. You
got to play your style, and they're going to play their style. And if they are, playing their best brand of basketball, it's going to be a tough win.
We could always stick Connor on Chet Holmgren.
No. No. I think your best bet is sticking Jalen Williams on Chet Holmgren and making him work. I mean, Chet Holmgren has been playing against a conference of not Jalen Williams, so maybe you see what he's like going up against a big athletic guy like Jalen Williams, see how that works out. But I don't think Chet Holmgren is the issue. I think the issue is going to be Timmy.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I don't think Timmy's that good, but I think that for us, I think we have no problem covering one big man. But if a team has two good big men, I think that's where things would get really dicey for us.
East Tony is kind of a wild card in terms of he can guard the 4 through the 1 basically, but I just don't think that's a good matchup. Yeah. So are we all saying Sweet 16 for Arkansas, or well, you think they're going to beat Zaga?
Me?
Willie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my only insight there. Yeah.
I'll say this. Regardless, JJ opted out this season. Arkansas is on the right track. My God, like this team is overachieved. So I'm happy that they are even solidly in the tournament. That was a question like a month ago. So the fact that they're a 4 seed is pretty incredible. The job they've done. I just wish we had no Banner or a Brady Manick this season. That's not how it turned out. Next year's going to be Mitchell. Something, or a Trey Mitchell. Yeah, I mean, one more transfer. You know what gave me a little hope is if Chris Likes has a game like he did against LSU, like I think we could beat a lot of people. I mean, if Chris Likes is as advertised in the tournament, he could be one of those guys that like becomes kind of like, he's a wild card. He could push us on a run.
He could, theoretically. I mean, we'll see.
If he scores like he did at Miami, which he hasn't all year, except against LSU, then...
Well, that's just because Miami... I mean, he had to score for Miami because no one else was going to score for Miami because Cam McGusty wasn't going to do that.
Yeah, trust me. As a Chris Likes hater all year long, I've looked into the numbers. He was a volume shooter, I know. But when you look at a highlight reel, you're like, oh, man, he's money. But that's what I did. I looked at the highlight reel when we got him, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. We set 5. But, man, I don't know. I'm happy with the results, and truly, like, you talk about a coaching job, a hell of a coaching job. Let me just get on Mush's teat one more time. I mean, that's how you find the true measure of a man is when your team is down, losing the Hofstra, you lose 3 straight in the SEC. He's just so damn good. Like he saved the season. Thank God he's our basketball coach, and hopefully we'll lock him down for a while.
Welcome to the Beers on Heads podcast.